All right, well, it's 12 o'clock noon Eastern time, so I'm gonna get us started. People are still dropping into the webinar, so as a starting, welcome to our MMIE taster session with a bit of focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. For those of you who have not yet met me, my name is Nusha Fine, and I am the program director of the Masters of Management, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And I will be the host for your session today. I have a fabulous MMIE team here with you that I want to introduce to you just briefly, and you will see us throughout the year if you have joined us or have decided to join us in the future. So Marianne Young is our MMIE Associate Director and Team Coach. Angela Zhang is our MMIE Program Manager. And for those of you who have gone through the admissions process already, you have met Angela previously. And then I have the distinct pleasure of introducing not one, but two MMIE application advisors to you. So Sarah Thomas has been our application advisor for the past couple of years and is now joined by Beth McCallum, who will be taking over the application advisor role for the MMIE program. And then I also have Katie Atkins, our recruitment advisors, as part of our MMIE team. So we are the core MMIE team, but we have a wide network and a family of MMIE affiliates, and some of them will share their knowledge and expertise with you. But before I introduce our panel experts for today, let me just briefly remind you of what MMIE is about and why we're talking about it here today. So MMIE is a customized master's program that inspires students to reach their full potential and build their entrepreneurial mindsets and innovation skill sets and transfer that into the real life. So we did a branding exercise with our current MMIE cohort, and they've decided that MMIE is a cohort of friendly disruptors that are driving change of tomorrow, which is pretty neat, I think. But how do we do that, and what makes us very unique? So one, we offer a very customized learning journey. So throughout everything we do, we provide 6 core courses and 2 project courses. You can focus your assignments and your learning toward achieving the goal you set yourself in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation within the master's program. We integrate theory and practice. So we have a really cutting edge set of professors, so faculty that teaches on our program, and I'm delighted that you will get to meet one of them today to share a bit of a taster of what's to come. So we don't only teach conceptual innovation and entrepreneurship, we learn by doing and we learn through becoming. So you will at the end be an entrepreneur and innovator with the right mindset and the toolkit to get you to wherever you want to get to. The 2 things that we are really proud of within the MMIE is a very strong coaching model. So every student that comes into our MMIE program is given or assigned a dedicated program advisor that runs them and helps support with resources and engagement, so subject matter expertise throughout the year. Each student that comes gets their own dedicated advisor. But to benefit from that subject matter expertise, the other advantage that the MMIE brings is a really diverse cohort of students. So we also do a lot of peer learning and experiential learning across the globe. So overall, our program this year, there's 20 countries represented. With the enrollment process going so far, I think we will be as diverse next year as well, which brings a unique learning experience as well. So by the end of the year, you will be able to apply your entrepreneurial and innovation skills within a global context, and you will better understand how to be entrepreneurial and innovative within the diverse environments. Just to brag a bit, so we're in our 7th iteration of MMIE, and we have, these numbers are still being validated and are changing by the day, because a month ago, an MMIE whiskey just landed in LCBO in Ontario, and he's not counted in there. So 137 startups have launched. Within those, 50 scale-ups and 40 social enterprises. And for the innovators in our cohorts, there have been over 100 promotions achieved. And I just got an email this morning, somebody else landed a promotion. So you see that number is already outdated. We've also been really good in supporting students to develop their communication and pitching skills, and ventures that have gone through the MMIE program have raised over 5 million already. The people that come into our program are entrepreneurs, are innovators. They work within startups, scale-ups, large organizations, and they're supporting building the innovation ecosystems. So in a nutshell, we're a program that will give you a toolkit to drive innovation and make the change and impact you want to do. But I'm the program director, right? So I will praise the program one way or the other all the time. So let me introduce you our extended MMIE family and expertise. I'm really thrilled today to host Barry Cross, who is an assistant professor and distinguished faculty fellow of operations strategy at Smith Business School. And Barry also teaches on our program. So he teaches innovation in practice, and he will give you a bit of a taster session of what to expect in terms of innovation in practice within MMIE. I'm also thrilled to have in our midst Caitlin Kopech, who's a senior consultant at Deloitte. And when she joined, she wasn't a senior consultant at Deloitte. She'll tell you a bit about her story and transition. She graduated in 21 and has continued to engage with MMIE as one of the program advisors. And finally, I'm thrilled to also introduce to you Sabrina Davis, who's the Associate Director at the Career Advancement Center. So she is our fabulous coach supporting career education for our students. And she'll be telling you a bit about how the Career Center can support you through your MMIE journey. But whatever I would have said about our 3 guests today, I wouldn't have given it justice. So I'll let Barry introduce himself a bit better and share a bit about innovation and MMIE. Let me just stop sharing, Barry, and the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Nusha, and really, really great to see everybody here today. And Nusha, if you don't mind, just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen okay. All right, is that a full screen?
No, we see the side slides as well.
All right, let's do it the other way again. I just tested this a minute ago. There we go. There we go. All right, and welcome. And I saw through the chat, we've got people from all over the world. So some of you, you're in the same time zone as us here in Kingston. Greetings from Kingston, Ontario. Some of you, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, midnight, 4 o'clock in the morning. So much respect for you taking a bit of time here and joining us here for this particular session. I've been at Smith now for over 16 years. And before that, I was out in industry. And in industry, I was doing a lot of the things that you are doing or you want to be doing going forward. So that's the perspective that I bring into this particular session. I spent time all over the world with different organizations. And when I left industry, I was running an organization with operations in three countries and $200 million in sales. So For me, this is less about theory, and as Nusha said, it's about practice. And the course that I have in the program is about innovation in practice. And what I really want to do with you here in this kind of 20 or 25 minutes is to give you a bit of a taste of the program, taste of our approach, and as importantly, I believe, a perspective on why we're here, right? Why you would consider a program like this. And you know, you've got so many choices for your graduate education and what you want to be doing next. This is why we believe this makes sense for us right now. So as we go through this, you know, keep in mind we'll have some time for Q&A at the end, and I'm happy to talk a little bit further, happy to connect with you, and most of all, look forward to meeting a few of you when we get to the live program here in the fall. So you'll see the title here. What I've got is what I call Service with a Shrug, and the perspective for the discussion that I want you to take is think about the user experience. Think about the user experience around you, and in your mind, has the user experience in general with some of the organizations that you interact with, has that user experience diminished? And if it has, why is that happening? And then ultimately, what do we do about it? What's the point of this type of a dialogue? All right, so this really starts to get into a bit of a sense of, you know, what it is that we can do inside of our organizations. I firmly believe, and we have the experience to do this, we can teach people to be innovative and creative inside of their organizations. I fundamentally believe that everybody in this room and everybody in our virtual room together has creative skills. And we're going to apply those to start to develop new and next and interesting inside of our particular organizations. That's the field of entrepreneurship. This is where we start to drive innovation inside of our existing organization. All right, so back to our backstory here. In your minds, this trend towards mediocrity, does it exist? All right, well, we can think of specific examples, specific cases, where say this organization like United Airlines, and everybody's familiar with a few years ago that doctor in Philadelphia, I believe it was, who was kind of dragged kicking and screaming off the aircraft because the airline had double booked that particular seat. Right? Or if you go back a little bit further, and you can find this video on YouTube called United Breaks Guitars, this guy that had his $3,000 Martin guitar, and you can appreciate why I might be a little sensitive about this, but he had his expensive guitar broken in front of his very eyes as he looked out the window, and the baggage handlers were kind of tossing his guitar around. You've got specific cases like that, and you say, okay, well, you know, that's maybe a little less common. All right, well, what about the decline in service for organizations like Starbucks? And there's many people in the room here who have a bit of a Starbucks habit, so to speak, or a Starbucks you know, break that's part of their routine. And maybe once a day, a couple of times a week, whatever, we'll drive down or drop down to the Starbucks, we'll grab our latte or a cappuccino and thank you, and we'll move back. And you know what, we work hard, we deserve that. But the question I want you to ask is Starbucks worth that $5? Is it worth that kind of $5 indulgence? You know, are they still creating that type of exceptional experience for us that justify the $5 that we would spend at a Starbucks? All right. And, you know, in many cases, you could look at this and you could say, okay, well, you know what? Starbucks is still serving 8,000 cups of coffee every minute. They've got 14 million members around the world. And leadership at Starbucks would look at that and they'd say, well, we've got 14 million members, people who are signed up to our app, that are logged in, that provide us their data. We must be doing a good job. Well, sometimes that data, those analytics may be a little bit misleading. The fact that we've got loyalty and membership like that may not mean we're doing a great job. So these businesses look at this and they say, yeah, you know what? We're busier than ever, busier than we ever have been, and sure, insert whatever pandemic qualifying statement you may want. But is that truly because we're doing a good job, or is it just demographics? Is it the growth in the population around our particular area that support that level of success that we may have enjoyed? All right, so let's take a step back here for a minute. And this is going to seem a little bit weird, right? Maybe a little crazy, but I want you to think about evolution. And everybody knows who this guy is. That's Charles Darwin. And he postulated the idea of natural selection, or survival of the fittest. And it's interesting as we look back, there's no pictures of Darwin back in our day when he was a young guy at university, hanging around at the pub, having a pint with his mates. There's always this kind of wise old Darwin, looking very serious. And people think about his particular, theories, and they say, okay, that's very representative of evolution over time. All right. But is it representative of the evolution of business? And we can take some of that same perspective of mediocrity inside of today's society and say, well, maybe more than just the fittest are surviving inside of our business community. Maybe more than just the fittest organizations are surviving inside of society. And there's all kinds of data to back this up. One of the easiest studies to refer to is out of Bain Consulting. And it's interesting because some of their data suggests that 80% of organizational leadership believe that they provide superior service. 80% of leadership believe they provide superior service. So Bain thought that was crazy. What a crazy number. That can't be that high. So Bain goes out and they talk to the customers of some of those same organizations. And what we find from those companies is that only 8% of the customers of those organizations believe they're on the receiving end of superior service, right? That's a pretty huge disconnect, 80% versus 8%. So you look at this and maybe it's not just survival of the fittest, there's more of this survival inside of the business community that goes on. So I look at a little bit deeper into the field of evolution and I say, well, maybe there's a better theory out there somewhere. So it turns out there's this guy called Stephen Gould. And he postulated the idea of punctuated equilibrium. Now, this is sounding very scientific, very complicated. It's not really that complicated. What Gould was suggesting was it's less about gradualism and kind of gradual evolution. And he said, every once in a while, there is an event that changes the face of our environment. And it's what happens after those particular events that is better and more representative of what's actually happening in society. All right, so here's a bit of data. And this sounds, kind of doom and gloom, and that's certainly not my intent. I'll show you where we're going here in just a moment. The worst of these extinction level events that Gould was talking about was, call it that Permian Triassic event. And really at that time, the majority of all species around the planet became extinct. And yeah, doom and gloom, and boy, that doesn't sound very good, Barry. Where are you going with this? Well, it's interesting because the species that survive these events are those that demonstrated the ability to adapt to their new environment. The species that survive better able to adapt to their new environment. Well, let's look beyond the species and think about the organizations, right? The organizations that survive some of these events are those that demonstrate the ability to adapt. Right? That adaptation can be managed. It can be learned. It can be driven and focused and strategized within an organization. That's what we're doing here within this program. So on the screen here is what I refer to as a business model life cycle. You might look at that and say, yeah, product life cycle, service life cycle. The purpose of this particular diagram is to appreciate that as an organization grows and develops, at some point, their existing business model life cycle will come to an end. This is a law. It's a law like gravity. At some point, whatever it is that we're doing will come to an end. We've got to move on to the next thing. And often that next thing is stimulated by one of these events that Gould was referring to. This event comes along, changes the way that our environment is operating, changes the behavior of the customers in our particular segment. And then we've got a responsibility as leadership inside of that organization to react to it. We've got to do something. Now, as I said, this isn't doom and gloom because right after that business model life cycle ends, there's another one right behind it. And to those statistics that Nusha was sharing earlier, it's the people coming out of this program. It's the people like you that are able to generate, to stimulate, to instigate that next curve. And that's what we find so exciting. Right? That's the really cool and neat stuff that comes out of this type of work is that whatever happens, whatever we do to change, even to sometimes drive the end of that previous business model life cycle, we get to build what's next, right? We get to create that next curve, right? And that's so cool. That's so interesting for us. So some of those changes, it's we look at this and we say, this is all about COVID right now, the pandemic, everything else. Well, at some point, the influences of the pandemic are going to come to an end. But all along through this period of time, there's been a number of other events that have been driving similar levels of change. Technology, right? The evolution of the automotive business model life cycle 100 years ago drove change. E-commerce, online shopping predicated the change or the elimination of a lot of the bricks and mortar retail that are out there. Public sentiment is huge, right? We don't give it enough due right now when you think about the health impact of, say, smoking, the carbon influence to our environment. That's driving significant change that people are reacting to as well. And then, of course, we've got the pandemic. So a couple of organizations, I want to highlight how they've driven change inside of their particular organizations or environments based on public sentiment. CVS Pharmacy, a really good example from down south of the border. A number of years ago, they said, hey, look, we're kind of in that healthcare industry. Why do we still sell tobacco? And they looked at this and they said, well, hey, this is a $2 billion a year line item or revenue line item for us. Why would we think about backing away from that? And the CEO said, we are a health-driven organization. We're going to move away from tobacco products. And you can appreciate the level of gnashing of teeth and the wringing of hands inside of the boardroom as they did this. Well, CVS was driving towards a new type of customer. They left tobacco products. They started to migrate their business towards a new model. Dick's Sporting Goods, and I appreciate that this particular example is particularly sensitive right now, given the most recent events here, down in the United States. Dick's a few years ago, their CEO witnessed another one of these events, and it was down in Florida at the time. And he said, you know what, if we're not part of the solution, we are part of the problem. And he said, we are going to get out of that particular product line, assault style rifles. So as of 2018, they stopped selling those products across 20% or almost 25% of their stores now. They've actually eliminated weapons of all type. And once again, they're migrating towards a more distinct outdoor enthusiast type of customer. They're leaving that model behind. They're moving to a new model. That's what they're driving inside of their particular space. All right, so this is the kind of behavior that you expect within organizations. It's not always the CEOs coming up with these ideas. In most cases, in fact, these are based on presentations, ideas, development activities within the organizations that start to drive that next model. All right, so we appreciate coming out of this pandemic, things are going to be a little bit different, but is our organization ready? This is where we start to develop some of the tools. So there's a couple of perspectives that I want you to take. The first one is the whole idea that these organizations, if they have a challenge, one of the things I like to say is that if they've got a challenge, they've either got a people problem or a process problem. And you know what? Our people are pretty good. So in many cases, we've got some type of a process challenge and they don't have the skills internally. So we start to look at some of those skills. And I want to use a bit of an example here. Imagine this process inside of your organization, and these are the cycle times for the various tasks. And imagine there's a lineup of customers in advance of this process at the start. So you've got people waiting. My question for you right now is, and just think about this yourself, make some notes, whatever is, what's the cycle time of that particular process? How long does it take for one customer to move through that particular process in your organization? All right, so as you look at this, you kind of do the math in your head and you say, okay, 10:30, okay, so that's a 60-second cycle time, right? It takes 60 seconds for one customer to get through that process. My second question is, okay, if it's 60 seconds, how many customers can I serve in 1 hour? All right, and you look at that and you kind of do a bit of math in your head. And there's going to be a few people in the room who say, you know what, I think it's 60 customers an hour. If it's a 60-second cycle time, yeah, that's 60, that's one per minute. Well, no, the actual number of customers that I can serve in an hour here is 120. And that's based on this bottleneck or constraint in that middle task. I can serve 120 customers per hour. What that means is I've essentially got a customer coming out of step number 2 every 30 seconds. That's 120 customers an hour. So when you look at this, we realize we've got some process challenges inside of our organization, but I don't necessarily have the process skills to be able to make it better. to drive process innovation, to drive process enhancement and optimization inside of my organization. I don't have those skills. So we can fix that. We can build those skills. The second challenge we've got is that inside of many of our businesses, our processes themselves are designed for us, not the customer. And that's where we get into some of these user experience challenges. And when you think about it, every organization in the world, we've got this process, we've designed it for our own consumption. We're not thinking about that end user, right? I'll give you a couple of examples. The first one, I'll ask you to think back to your high school days for a minute and remember that bus pickup. Those of you who had a chance to travel on a bus to class back in high school, what time did that bus pick you up in the morning? Right, and if you think about it, yeah, it was probably something like 7:30, 7:45, which is early, right? But what that means is you got to school around 8:15 or so. Classes might have started around 8:30. The problem with that is that our bodies, and this is universal, go through a massive change at puberty to the point where you're up later in the evenings, you're not really functioning properly first thing in the morning. You get to class at 8:30, your first class is calculus at 8:30 in the morning, and that 15-year-old, 16-year-old mind is not fully functioning. We know this scientifically till kind of 9:30, quarter to 10. So what the heck are we doing with that schedule? Why is that bus schedule so early in the morning? Well, those bus schedules are designed for the Board of Transportation. They're designed for the board, the school board in that particular district, to save money, to optimize their schedules. You know, you'll do the elementary school kids with another bus run right after the high school kids are done. Yet those customers of that particular process as high school kids aren't fully functioning, therefore not getting the best out of the first part of the school day as a result of this process that we've designed to save money, right? Now, there's a few states down in the US who are experimenting with a flipped schedule where they do the elementary kids first, and then the high school kids get there around 9 o'clock and start classes then. That's optimized then for those customers. Here's another really quick one. You look at the seniors and geriatric wards within hospitals. Here's the bed they put patients in, you know, and the bed height is kind of up at this level. It's kind of at that 32 to 36 inch bed height. And that's obviously for the practitioners to make it easier to communicate with the patients, check blood pressure, administer medication, that sort of thing. The challenge is the number one cause of patient falls for seniors in hospitals is bed height. It's getting in and out of those beds that are up at kind of this level. So once again, the process is designed for us as opposed to the patients in that process. And there's a smart guy called Dr. Samir Sina up at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto, who's experimented with a whole geriatric designed ward, designed for the customers, designed for them. And it's having remarkable impact. It's reducing capacity constraints, saving money, reducing the amount of time that patients have to spend in the hospitals, thinking about the customers and driving new designs inside of healthcare. All right, so a lot of really cool areas of interest and research out there that we're going to focus on. But you think about it and you say, well, so what? You know, these same businesses are busier than ever. Why do they have to change anything, right? Why do they have to do anything different? Well, you know what, it really gets down to the idea of our success and our growth in the past has been generally a result of demographics. Over the last 200 years, demand has been greater than supply, right? We've got more people moving, more people growing and developing, coming into our various markets. Our businesses have been generally successful because of the growth in numbers, as opposed to the growth in our capability, our service design, our user experience. And the challenge is, during times like a pandemic, where some of that traffic flow changes, where customer behavior changes, this is where we start to witness some of the challenges. Warren Buffett said, it's when the tide goes out that you get to see who's been swimming naked, right? And in this case, many of these organizations are suffering as a result of having poor design, poor structure inside of their business, poor organizational design. And the fact that the numbers have changed and consumer behavior has shifted, we start to get a sense of a new and different environment. And our organization is not prepared. We don't know how to react to that. So this is really what the program's about. It's about giving you the tools to say, how do I deal with that? Whether you're on the entrepreneurial side and you want to build a business around some of these societal level shifts, or whether you're on the corporate side and you want to help your organization get better and capitalize on some of the opportunities that are forming, this is what we're about. And you know what? There's this thing called the habit discontinuity hypothesis. And basically what it says is that the best time to drive change inside of an organization is when people are already changing. And you know what? There's been a bit of that going on over the last couple of years, I think we'll all have to admit. All right, so let's fix it. How do we fix it? Well, entrepreneurship is really that field of corporate innovation, what I call lean innovation as well. And it's about the idea of driving change and new and next and interesting. And people's first thought generally gravitates towards new and interesting types of product. All right, well, that's good. But the broader opportunity for most of us, 80% of the people in our room in here work inside of service organizations in some form or another. So we've got a greater opportunity in areas of service innovation, process innovation, like what I just described. And we're going to talk about how to capitalize on some of those opportunities and do something really cool inside of these particular business fields. Just quickly, how we do that, it really starts with the focus on the customer. Who are those customers? What do we know about them? What do they want? Why are they here right now? Right, specifically now. And then we start to think about the design of our organization, the teams, the people, the projects, and how we start to structure opportunities for creativity, building innovation spaces and the appropriate innovation strategies and cultures around organizations. And then, you know, as importantly as anything else, you'll hear me say that Postit Notes make you smarter. And there's approaches that we can take using, you know, very simple tools around your organization with stuff you've already got in your offices that can start to support and facilitate a lot of that type of creativity. And there's a lot of activities and fun associated with this. And, you know, it's truly a pleasure to be part of this particular type of program. I want to give you a quick snapshot. Nusha is going to talk more about this and has with many of you already. The program's a blend. So some of this stuff that somebody like me would do with you is going to be live. Some of it's virtual and remote over tools like Zoom, like this here today. That might be some of the tutorials or one-on-one discussions that we get into. And then there's some pre-recorded content. And the beauty of that is you control a lot of your own schedule, and you're going to optimize and access that information and that learning activity, you know, when is best for you. Of course, there's some pre-recorded and pre-scheduled time, but there's some of this you get to control as well. So there's just really a ton of flexibility associated with the overall delivery. Courses are fairly concentrated, as you're well aware as well. And, you know, there's both team and individual components to the program. So it tends to be a lot of fun. You know, a year long, from my perspective, it certainly goes very quickly. You know, a year from now, you'll be looking back and saying, wow, right, I can't believe what we've accomplished and what we've gone through over the last year, but it does move quickly. I think that's it for me. Really, as I said earlier, this program is about preparing you and giving you concrete tactical tools and perspectives to be able to drive new and next and interesting inside of organizations, inside of something new within society, maybe that idea that's been kind of noodling around in your head for a while. And, you know, it's based on, I don't know where we are now, Nusha, it's something like this is the 8th or 9th year or something like that of the program. And, you know, we've evolved the program as well through that period of time significantly. So this is, call it MMIE 2 or maybe even 3.0. So with that, I'll stop my share and look forward to talking a little bit further here as we go ahead. Nusha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Barry. I'll have that question answered by you. So do MMIE faculty have virtual office hours as well?
Yeah. In fact, typically what we'll do is kind of one day a week. We'll pick a time, and you know, the program coordinators help us pick a time that's going to be as neutral as possible, given the fact we've got people in many time zones. So Well, it'll be an hour, kind of a drop by. I'll have a bit of content for you, and we'll just spend whatever time you have on Q&A. So it's, you know, whoever happens to show up that day, it's kind of virtual office hours, drop by. There could be 5 of us, there could be 50 of us. I tend to get a lot of people dropping by. So some people just drop in to kind of stay connected. Some people just want to hear what other people are asking, but it's open to all.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Barry. And maybe just to point it out before I hand it over to our fabulous Career Center team and alumni. So we do talk about innovation and entrepreneurship pathways, but that doesn't mean you need to choose, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Oh, I'm going to be an innovator. That's the journey you go through. So through the courses that you take and all the master classes and workshops that are associated with that, you actually learn the nitty-gritty of it all. So you can work as an entrepreneur, launch a venture by the end of the program. You can go into a large organization as an entrepreneur where you drive innovation internally. You can become the first employee of a startup or work within an innovation ecosystem. So there is a variety of toolkits and skill sets that you build that enable you to work in both environments. And that's why we nicely combine management, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And what you can do post-degree is something, and how you get supported during the degree for launching or progressing your career is something the Career Center is very much versed in. And so Sabrina, welcome again to our MMIE taster session. Caitlin as well. Caitlin will share her experience firsthand, while Sabrina will tell you what's there to offer. So Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. You know, it's every time I listen to you, Barry, I just want to keep listening to you. I was thinking, oh, my time's here now. I wanted to keep listening to Barry. So thanks for letting me participate and listen to that. I'm going to quickly share my screen and let's just hope that everything works. Yeah, we're good. Excellent. Whew, that's the most stressful part of the day, everybody, right there. Similar to what Barry said, looking in the chat, I'm really impressed and pleased to see how diverse our audience is. So thank you for joining us and spending a bit of time here. The purpose of my section is to give you a sense of the Career Advancement Center. We've pretty much call ourselves the CAC all the time because those other words is too many to say all at once. And so what I want to share with you is a little bit about how the CAC is part of your MMIE family, your extended family, as Nisha says, and to give you a sense of what that support looks like and how we are part of your journey. The better part of this section, though, I think, is I'm going to have an opportunity to chat with the wonderful Caitlin. She and I spent lots of time together as coach and coachee over the course of the program. And I think we thought it would be really helpful for everyone on the call today to get a sense of what's it like, you know, coming into the program, during the program, how can the CAC support you? What does that look like in terms of outcomes, et cetera? And so I think the more interesting piece of my section will be with Caitlin. So just bear with me for a moment as I give you a little bit of the background and structure so you have a sense of what the CAC is all about and how we are with you in this journey. And then we will get into our conversation with Caitlin. Just advance my slides. There we go. So this is our CAC team, and as you can see, it's very large. What I want to point out is that on the left-hand side, we have the corporate relations team in green, and then on the right-hand side, we have the purple, which is the career education and coaching team, of which I am a part. When you think about the Career Advancement Center, we are two sides of a coin. And so on the green side, the corporate relations team have relationships with our corporate partners. They get a sense of what the industries and functions are looking for. What does the talent, what are the skills the talent needs to have? And then the green communicates with the purple, which is the coaching team, the people who work directly with the students to give them a sense of what kind of skills do you need to have? How can we help you bridge the gap? How can you leverage what you're learning in the program? But also, how can we make sure that you have a robust career education experience so that this will serve you long term? And so when we talk about career education, it's not just about, oh, I hope I get a great promotion at the end of the program, or I hope I get a great job. It's more about giving you a skill set to understand how to manage your career long term. And so when you think about our team, what you will notice as you get to know us is that we have industry experience, we have coaching expertise, we have people who worked in these industries and these functions. And so we bring what Barry spoke to, which is that practical piece of this. We help you understand what it means to learn about career education, whether it be your brand, the tactical things like your resume, cover letter, and LinkedIn, but how you harness those skills to make them meaningful for you so that you can move your career ahead, not just immediately following the program, but how you'll manage that longer term. This is the coaching team, and the reason I share this slide specifically with all of the beautiful faces on screen is because this tends to be your primary point of contact when it comes to the CAC. So in addition to the coaches on the bottom, you can see that they are aligned functionally. So a moment ago, when I spoke about the green side of that org chart, their corporate relation managers are aligned by industry. The coaches are aligned by function. All of that intending for you to have a sense of the breadth and depth that we can offer you in terms of not only our coaching skills, but what we understand about the industries and the functions that you might be interested in, whether you're looking to move up in that area or if you're looking to pivot into something new. Nusha's very generous and she gives me lots of airtime with the MMIE students. So I do tend to be the first person that people meet with. However, you can see we have a very large team of coaches who are excellent, skilled at what they do and really coach from the heart, which I think is a really powerful experience and very advantageous. I mentioned a moment ago about our career education curriculum. And so what I just want to point out here is how we share that curriculum with you. There will be one-on-one coaching sessions with myself and some of the other coaches on the team. We have lots of events that you have the ability to attend. We had our first MMIE day last December, which was wonderful. And so we will be doing that again. There's a tremendous number of online resources, and similar to your academic journey, within the career space, we offer you what we call master classes, which are taking our career education content and diving deeper into it so that we can really extend your learning and create meaning from it. So it's practical for you and that it actually applies to what you want to do with respect to moving your individual career goals forward. The tutorials that are mentioned here on screen are more of the tactical pieces in terms of specific tools that we have available for you and how to dive into those and make the best use of them. But all of this makes up your career management curriculum. And what I want to point out very briefly is Discover, Build, Launch, which you can see on screen. The DBL framework is our strategic framework within the Career Advancement Center. And that framework is in place to ensure that you have a sense of self in the discover phase, that you also discover career options that might be appropriate for you or interesting to you. Once you have that knowledge of self and you think you know where you'd like to point your attention, we then move into that more tactical phase, which would be things like resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, technical preparation, interviews, etc. And then we move into the blue, which is how we launch your career. And so we have the opportunity to not only help students to get prepared for interview, but also to work with them on those offer letters and the art of negotiation so that you can get a fantastic outcome at the end of your MMIE journey. Career Management Foundations is a very important piece of our career education curriculum. We also refer to it as CMF, among the many other acronyms that we use here at Smith. CMF is aligned to our DBL, or Discover, Build, Launch framework. And I just want to point out to you that we have 8 self-directed modules. They are available on what we call a portal. So it's 24/7 access. And you have the ability as a Smith student to dive as shallow or as deep as you want into this content. Then you layer on top of that the master classes and the one-on-one coaching. So we give you that really well-rounded career education experience that's unique to you. It's important to acknowledge that each of you have different experiences coming into the program and you have different goals. And those goals might actually change when you're in the program, and that's okay. The very nature of this structure allows you to leverage this content along with your academic, and if you're working at the same time, balancing all of those activities together so you still get the best value, the greatest education, but you get to do it on your time. So I think that flexibility really lends itself well to the students in this program. I'm sure all of you are wondering, yeah, so what? We get the career education piece, but what happens when? Like, we do all of this and we do all this training, coaching, and so on, but what happens? This is a very general snapshot of the outcomes from the last many years of students who have graduated from this program. And so you can see at the top, there's many industries that are represented. Within those industries, a tremendous number of functions. And then really interesting is the diversity in the roles that people acquire as a result of joining this program. And so when you think about how the CAC partners with you in this journey, and we do partner, I love that Barry mentioned teaching you to fish in his presentation, because we like to use that expression as well in the CAC. We don't have a magic drawer of jobs that we're just going to open and say a job for you and a job for you. Instead, what we do is help you to understand self, your strengths, your value proposition, what you value and where you want to point your attention. And then we connect that to industries and functions and the roles that go with that, so that you get fulfillment from the work that you do. It's not just meant to be a paycheck. And so all of this takes time. And what we share with our students is, once you join the program and we start in August, engage early with the CAC and engage often, because as much as you are in the driver's seat of the car as it relates to your career journey, we are in the passenger seat. We are holding the map, and we're going to help suggest things and point you in different directions and really help you get the most out of your Smith experience and achieve one of these many career outcomes. All right, that's all I had for my slideshow. I'm going to stop my share. And now, Caitlin, if you are ready and want to come off mute, I think it would be really helpful for us to have a conversation and for our attendees here today to get a sense of, so what does it all mean? That sounds great from a theoretical perspective, but what does that mean in terms of careers? So before we even get going, Caitlin, could you just do a little bit of, tell us about yourself? Just share with the audience a little bit about you, please.
Awesome. Thanks, Sabrina. This is like my least favorite question. I really don't like talking about myself, and yet I get asked to participate in these panels. So thank you for the opportunity. My name is Caitlin Kapaj. I am, as you've seen before, a senior consultant, a soon-to-be manager with Deloitte, and I'm also an MMIE advisor. So perhaps I'll have the opportunity to speak to all of you wonderful individuals later on through your MMIE journey. Who I am, a little bit about me. If you want to talk value proposition, I am someone who basically wants to help people succeed, regardless about how they define their success, regardless of their journey, regardless of their upbringings, regardless of their background. I work hard, and I work for basically helping you. I want to see you climb to the top of your mountain. I don't care what your mountain is. But I want to see you get to the top. And that is me as not only a career person, but as an individual. I volunteer. I have had a slew of careers. I have my CPA, I have my Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification, I have my MMIE, I was supposed to be pre-med, that completely changed, and I've done all of this as a single mom. And so, or a single parent at that. And I have just, honestly, I've just followed what's made me happy and what sparked joy. And, but without a doubt, I've always hit barriers. And one of the barriers that I've come up with, actually the CAC and Sabrina helped me through. So I don't know, do you want to know more? Like,
well,
what else would you like to know, Sabrina?
Let's pause there
right?
for a moment. Given that you were, thank you for that. And thanks for the shout out. That was really kind of you, Caitlin.
It's very true though.
You know, you were working when you joined the program. So maybe give, you know, the people here today a sense of what brought you to it in the first place and what made you decide to pursue the MMIE.
Sure. So actually, before I joined MMIE, I was not with Deloitte. I worked with the provincial government. I was with the provincial government in Canada for 10 years, actually. And at the time when I joined, it was perfect for me. I was a single mom. I needed a job. I needed 8 to 5. There's no daycare that works shift work. They should have daycare that works shift work, but there's not. So provincial government did that for me. I got bored very, very quickly, but I just kept thriving to do things differently. I joined MMIE because I was bored. I have told this story several times, and I will continue to tell this story several times over. It was not because I was looking for a new job. It was not because I was looking to, you know, start a startup. It was not because I was looking to be an innovator within the space of the public sector. It was truly for me and due to boredom. because I was hitting barriers at work. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I live in a very small province. I live in New Brunswick, Canada. Anyone who knows Canada, it's on the East Coast. Very small, very few opportunities for startups unless you're a craft brewery, which is not my forte. I love beer. I love to drink it. I just can't. I can't create it. And so I was bored, and I researched MBA programs, lots of them all through Canada, and I fell on MMIE because it was the most inspiring one, and it actually was one that allowed me not only to learn but put things in practice. And I'm a firm believer that reading is wonderful. Learning from subject matter experts and teachers such as Barry is an amazing opportunity, but if you can't take what you've learned and put it into practice in the real world, then it's worth the paper it's written on, because unfortunately the real world is nothing like a book. I wish it was. Sometimes I wish I could get stuck in one of those like sci-fi fantasies or, you know, romance novels. Maybe then I'd find my Prince Charming, but the reality is life is turbulent. So a long answer to your very short question, Sabrina, but truthfully, bullet point is I joined MMIE due to boredom.
But that's interesting because people come for all kinds of different reasons. It's a very individual choice. So, you know, there was a comment in the chat about you being so honest and open, and I appreciate that about you as well. You are an inspiration. I'm echoing some of the comments. So if you're not looking at them yet, Caitlin, you need to take a peek at them.
I will.
So that said, I usually say, oh, what was your goal coming in? Well, your goal was to avoid boredom. That's what I'm picking out very clearly. So this is a bigger question. So just bear with me for a moment. Talk to us about your career journey, because you were working with the government. You are now in an amazing job. You're about to have a promotion very quickly. So talk us through that career journey of sort of discovering you and what you wanted and how you went from joining the program out of boredom to working in a senior role at Deloitte.
So this is actually one of my favorite stories because it talks about how amazing MMIE is. MMIE has a slew of opportunities. We have mentors, we have advisors, we have the CAC, we have our faculty, and then we have the core team of MMIE that all bring a slew of expertise and knowledge. The thing that I had to do was tap into that. So it requires a sense of vulnerability and drive to be able to say, okay, sure, I'm bored, right? But then what am I going to do about it, right? What am I personally, that's in my realm of control, going to do about it? So first step was apply for MMIE. Second step was I got accepted, yay me, right? But then now what, right? How am I going to make the best out of this opportunity? So without really any end goal other than let's cure this boredom, I decided to reach out. So I've reached out to the coaches and advisors that we have in MMIE. I reached out to the CAC. I reached out to faculty and the core team, and I started to get curious. I started to get curious not only about them, but about how they perceive the program and how they might be able to help me. And through those curious conversations, I was able to realize that I was not happy. I was not sparking joy in my own life in multiple ways, not only, you know, with work, but in other aspects. And at first I said, okay, it must be my environment. It must be, you know, not only the job, but it must be where I live. Right? Like I even went through that transition, and I said, okay, let's move to Toronto, the hustle and bustle, and do all of this, or even to Kingston, right? That's just a larger component. Unfortunately, as much as I still want to do this, my life over here has caused, again, some barriers, but through all these conversations and the help that I've gotten and the reaching out to people, I realized that sometimes you're looking for the cake, right? You want that, you know, triple layered, ganache covered, you know, whipped cream cake. And that's what your expectation is. But the reality is you're given everything. You're given the flour, the sugar, the eggs, the milk, the oil, all this stuff to make your cake. But the reality is when you make your cake, you actually get a chocolate cake instead of a vanilla cake. It's still the cake, but it's not exactly what you perceived it was. So in realizing that, I said, okay, so if I can't move, or, if this job, what is it about this job that I don't like? And what are the things that I do like? And how can I put that in, or what kind of organizations, what kind of people might actually allow me to do this? And Deloitte, I kind of stumbled, and I know everyone, hopefully maybe not, but Deloitte is a big name. It is known. It's worldly. It's one of the top 4 consulting companies. But I knew little about it, and I was like, do I really want to do this? But Deloitte has been able to offer me the opportunity to travel. So rather than move, I still have my contents here, but I can travel, and I travel often. Deloitte has offered me the opportunity to work when and how I want, which again was important. And Deloitte, because it's so big, has the backing to be able to, for me to say, okay, I might be bored over here with a client, because of course you have to do client work, you have to bring in revenue, but I can focus my attention here, but then I can do other things that spark joy, that also provides an impact within the company or outwardly to my community. So then it kind of, even though, and I unfortunately in life, not everything is perfect. So I look at it as, okay, sometimes I'll have frustrations with clients, right? But then the other things that I get to do within this organization that allows me to constantly spark that joy kind of makes an equilibrium. That's a word I can't say, apparently. Great. But it allows me to just be content and happy in the job that I am. And so I've ended up discovering all these insights through hard work, through really, really vulnerable moments. I think there was moments, Sabrina, and I think I cried. I'm fully open. I don't actually wear my heart on my sleeve. I am very emotionally averse, and crying just does not suit well for me. So I appreciate Sabrina able to get me to that point, because it allowed me to make some true realizations for myself. But it was through kind of being open to say that even though I have expectations in life, that doesn't mean I can't achieve them. They just might look a little differently. And it was just allowing myself space to have the conversations and being open and receptive to different opinions, thought processes, and then doing what I felt was right in the moment and in the time. Did that answer that question? Did I go completely off topic?
There's so many goodies in that answer, and I'm certain that it provided a tremendous amount of information for our attendees. I'm just going to do a time check. Nusha, do I have time for one more? Maybe, no?
Yes, you can absolutely do one more.
Okay.
I actually moved a meeting too, so just for you. So
Well, then we have to do one more. Okay.
we have to do one more.
For the people on the call who are considering the program, whether they've just enrolled or consider enrolling, etc., what is your biggest piece of advice for them in terms of all those support resources, their advisors, the CAC? How can they make the most of this experience to create their unique value?
That is always a hard question. And I seem to get asked this, and you would think I would have bullet points and be like, do this, do this, do this. And I don't. I would say take away any bias that you might have, take away any uncertainties, and be open and receptive to all answers, and be curious. I lean into conversations and don't get defensive. I truly believe that everyone comes at you at it from a very kind heart, and they don't necessarily mean any disrespect. They honestly are giving you their opinion, their perspective by their own unique qualifications, journeys, perspective. That doesn't mean you have to take it. Hopefully some people have heard the fact that, feedback is a gift. That truly is what it is. You can choose to accept it, you can choose to regift it, and you can choose to hide it under the rug, and only take it out when absolutely necessary. But I am saying that people just open. There is a slew of resources out there when you join MMIE. Take the time to invest in them. don't just talk to Sabrina. She showed a slide with how many people. I think there was 10 people at the CAC. If you have the time and availability, talk to as many of them as you can. There's a slew. I think we have 14 advisors now, perhaps. You're assigned one. That doesn't mean you cannot talk to them all. Sometimes too much, too much is overwhelming, but again, be your own gauge, right? Take control of your own destiny kind of idea. There's no right way to do this program. There's no right way to do life. But I would say if you are open to vulnerability, open to look inwardly and grow as an individual, have that growth mindset, or at least willing to tap into that a little bit more than perhaps you already are or not, and reach out. We're all here to help. We all want to achieve or help you achieve your goals, and we will work with you. But the reality is you have to do the work. So come prepared, realize that you'll have moments that all you want to do is stay in bed, and that's okay. Sometimes that's a perfect day. But just take every day, one moment at a time, and put your best step forward, even if you only have enough energy to come on a call and say, I'm not my best today, but I'm here. I think that's the best advice I can give in, 2 minutes or less.
That was brilliant. I always think students leave resources on the table. So what I hear from you is take the Smith sponge and wring it for everything that you want to get from it as an individual student, depending on your unique needs, desires, and goals.
Yeah.
Caitlin, thank you so much. This feels like it was way too short. I haven't seen you in so long and I've missed you. So thank you for sharing your insights, your wisdom, and being with us here today. Thank you so much. Misha, back to you, please.
Thanks so much, Caitlin. I think there might be a requirement for your LinkedIn details in the chat if you are willing to share. Yes. So I think we have provided a bit of a taster from the perspective of content. And in half an hour, I think, well, at least for me, Barry got me really excited to think about the change and kind of the equilibrium of where we want to go. So I'm hoping he did the same to you. And bear in mind, I've been doing this with Barry, well, for now a couple of years, but in my professional life for almost 20 years. So inspiration from Barry. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Any final thoughts for our future MMIEs, Barry?
Well, you could echo a lot of Caitlin's thoughts, and, that she's a pretty rare example of somebody who has truly embraced the overall experience. And, some people are here maybe a little more casually through the program. Somewhere in the middle likely is going to be you. And customize and tailor, and the program is there to give you give you back what you put into it. So whatever that looks like for you, we look forward to kind of meeting and engaging with you come the fall this year. And thank you for having me.
Thanks very much, Barry. And just to, as I was looking at the questions, to kind of emphasize and reiterate. So there was a question, how do we get to do company registration and prototyping and all of that in a virtual environment? So just as a reminder, MMIE has been a hybrid, and Barry touched on this, pre-COVID. So we've been hybrid as in person, online throughout the year before COVID hit. The way the program is structured is it runs from August to July. In August, we welcome you into a residential, 2-week residential in Kingston, where we start to build the mindset and get you on that first change curve that Barry was talking about. We introduce you to high-performing teams. We introduce you to innovation and entrepreneurship perspectives. And then we move from the residential online, where you start to complete core courses that are staggered one after another. We welcome you back in December for the second residential bootcamp for 1 week, where we focus on processes. So innovation processes, how to drive corporate innovation. So we start off with a hackathon in August. We do a corporate innovation challenge in December. Then again, we move online. You can do it from wherever in the world. And after that, we're back in May for our final week to celebrate success as the first starting point, but also to wrap it up from a variety of different innovation and entrepreneurship perspective, and to focus on scaling and growth. So the structure of the boot camps where you are in residence are focusing on mindset, processes, and growth. And throughout that, we weave in the core courses that give you the innovation and entrepreneurship toolkit. All of the resources from Queens are available to you throughout that. And COVID, actually, the very positive change, a lot of it now can actually be done online. You have makerspace available if you wanted to do stuff in Kingston. And throughout the boot camps where you are actually in Kingston, we can have those conversations and make it happen for you. We wouldn't be innovation and entrepreneurship if we didn't find a way to make it happen. So hopefully that answers a bit of the questions. I'm really thrilled to be welcoming you in August for the kickoff of the program. So thank you again, Sabrina. The Career Center has been a fabulous partner, as have the faculty, and our MMIE family, including fabulous alumni as Caitlin, are there for you. So we are over 600 people now that will support you on that journey in one way or another. So very much looking forward to welcoming you in August. If you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to get in touch, and we will see you soon. Again, my panel and extended MMIE family, appreciate it. Thank you very much.